Greetings everyone, TLOU Strategist here, back with another phenomenal Last of Us Part 2 video. This one is called 5 Revelations, and I'm going to present 5 things that we may see in the Sony State of Play reveal. I'm going to get right into this, so if you're new here, or if you want to stay up to date on all my future Last of Us Part 2 content, gameplay, or videos, please slice that like button or smack that subscribe button. Alright, here we go.
What are you doing, kiddo? You really gonna go through with this?
The first potential revelation is a massive one. Joel revealed. We've walked in his path for the first game, and we've seen him go from a struggling single father trying to make ends meet to an ultimate badass survivor charged with the task of protecting the quote-unquote savior of the world. But the thing is, we've yet to really see anything of Joel in The Last of Us Part 2. Only a single cryptic appearance in that initial reveal trailer that didn't really show anything of him directly. So that begs the question, is Joel alive? Or is he just a figment of Ellie's deteriorating mind? Or is it something else? Did he snap and become the leader of the Seraphite cult? All good questions. And if Joel were to make an appearance in the upcoming week, it would go a long ways towards answering them. The next potential revelation is infected gameplay. It was announced that footage of Ellie combating infected was shown at the private GameStop event, and it is presumed that this same gameplay will be available at the private Naughty Dog media event, which is being held on the very same day as the State of Play. But much like Joel, we've seen practically nothing of infected since the game was announced. Going back to the very last clicker we see in Part 1, all we've seen since then is a very brief shot at the end of the Paris Game Week trailer. However, if we were to see infected, it'll be very interesting to see just how they've evolved over time. Will we see mega bloaters, or infected animals such as bears, elks, or wolves? Also, in Part 1, nearly all infected were found in urban settings, so it'll be cool to see just how infected operate in the dense, rain-drenched forests of the Pacific Northwest. I think it'll be fascinating to see how these infected present themselves in Part 2. As in Part 1, it seemed as the story moved along, the infected became less and less important as the main story elements was primarily driven by the human survivors. If you think of the last few obstacles that Joel and Ellie overcame, it was the cannibals, David's cannibals in Silver Lake, and the fireflies to a greater and lesser extent in Salt Lake. So, once again, it wasn't the infected that were the big issue at the end, it was the humans. And if the Seraphites have this amazing whistling communication system, I think they could be a significantly more challenging adversary. One of the potential revelations I'm most excited about is new weapons. It should be quite obvious at this point that The Last of Us Part 2 will be a very melee-focused game. I don't know if you noticed the subtlety in this gameplay, but watch how Ellie seamlessly transitions her melee weapons from her switchblade to the hammer and then to the machete. In this scene, we also see for the first time a long arm, as up to that point we'd only seen pistols, a revolver, a bow, and melee weapons. In regards to the seamless melee weapons, Anthony Newman confirmed on Twitter that there are no fist fights in The Last of Us Part 2, only knife/machete fights. He also noted that there's a new dodge and parry mechanic that will make the melee encounters far more dynamic. With this current period having taken place so many years after the initial outbreak, it'll be interesting to see which firearms actually make it into The Last of Us Part 2. My guess is we'll definitely see plenty of bows and crossbows, along with a handful of sidearms. And we'll definitely see a hunting rifle. I mean, Ellie is holding one in the promotional materials. But I highly doubt we'll see many ARs, burst, or variable rifles, if any of them at all. I'd also kind of like to see a flare gun, just because I think it would be extremely effective when dealing with infected, but it also just kind of ties in very well with the post-apocalyptic lore. There is also one final weapon, quote unquote, which would be in the form of a canine companion. The only hint I even have to even allude to something like this is I do know that they used dogs for motion capturing. Now, whether this was just for wolves or infected wolves, who knows? But if it were for a canine companion, I think that would offer some extremely exciting gameplay opportunities. The last thing that I wanted to touch on was potentially seeing different forms of weapon modifications and upgrades. In part 1, players were able to upgrade their weapons through collecting tools and visiting a series of workbenches throughout urban areas. Seeing as most of this gameplay might take place in more of a rural environment, I'm not so sure that will work. I'm curious to see how they've developed this new modification and upgrade system. The sleek and simple crafting system we've seen so far seems very straightforward. You can craft medkits, molotovs, smokes, arrows, explosive arrows, what appears to be a silencer, and some sort of melee device. I really hope we get another look at this system in the State of Play reveal. Alright, here we go. Now this is one revelation that is near and dear to my heart. A multiplayer information reveal would be absolutely amazing. The multiplayer has in fact been confirmed by Kurt Margano and Anthony Newman at this point years ago. However, they did stop short of saying that factions would return. They said that The Last of Us Part 2 would have multiplayer. So that begs the question, just what type of multiplayer are they crafting? We know that the single player mode appears to be a very, very melee heavy gameplay style. And would that work with a multiplayer? That's a good question. Also, there are a lot of people who would like the current trend of Battle Royale to make its way to The Last of Us. And while I can definitely see the benefits and kind of some of the more thematic tie-ins, I'm also a little hesitant to see something that has provided such a unique multiplayer experience go the way of a more standard commercial approach. Or perhaps they'll go back to their roots and design a multiplayer how they originally tried to design this multiplayer, which was a cooperative mode. That would be something. I know a lot of people really would like to see a infected co-op mode. And so maybe that is what they are designing. I'm sure whichever direction they go, the multiplayer will be fantastic. I just kind of hope they don't deviate too far from this current factions formula, which for me has just been unbelievable. Regardless, this is one revelation that I'm really, really hoping for. I just can't wait. Now, this last revelation may be the biggest one for most people. Will The Last of Us Part 2 receive a release date? For me, I haven't ever really felt the desire that I had to have it. I knew the game would come out at some point, and I was more than satisfied with that. But at this point, I think most people, a lot of people, are expecting it. And I think there is a very, very good chance it happens this week. If not on Tuesday, then probably on Thursday for Outbreak Day. So last year on Outbreak Day, I held a live stream, and I had this idea, this thought, that how amazing would it be if they surprise released The Last of Us Part 2 on Outbreak Day. I know for many, many commercial capital licensing reasons that could not really happen. But just imagine the wave of people calling out from work and just rushing to get this game, whether it's digitally or in person. You could literally create that same kind of outbreak panic that happened in the very first scene of the first game. So yeah, With that having been said, I will hold a Outbreak Day live stream this year, and I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe got some new information or some new hope or just maybe a little bit of excitement for this upcoming State of Play release. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and cheers.